Hello, all you freedom-loving people. A Minnesota man was arrested for offering $45,000 to kill Pam Bondi. President Trump's Asia trip has been fruitful so far. Even China is falling into line to avoid 100% tariffs, but Canada was not so lucky. Okay, let's get into it. Today, the FBI announced that they have arrested someone that the Bureau alleges is an anarchist who posted on social media an offering of $45,000 for the killing of Attorney General Pam Bondi. Tyler Maxon Avalos, a Minnesota man, was arrested on October 16th after a tipster alerted the FBI to the alleged murder-for-hire plot that the defendant reportedly posted on TikTok earlier this month. Avalos was charged with interstate transmission of a threat to injure another person, based on the court documents. The post included a photo of Bondi with a sniper scope red spot on her forehead and with the caption, "Wanted, Pam Bondi, reward $45,000, dead or alive, preferably dead." The post allegedly also says, cough, cough, when they don't serve us, then what? The FBI alleges that Avalos has anarchist ties, and they noted that his TikTok username is Wacko. Wacko is an apparent anarchy symbol. And according to the court documents, his profile also featured a link to an anarchist frequently asked question book. Records also show that Avalos has a lengthy criminal record. His convictions include prior raps for stalking and domestic assault. He was convicted in July of 2022 for stalking in Minnesota, as well as for domestic battery in Florida in 2016. Today, President Trump arrived in Japan after a 6-hour flight from Malaysia. After Malaysia, Japan is the second stop on his Asia tour, where President Trump visited Emperor Naruhito at Tokyo's Imperial Palace. The White House described their meeting as a courtesy call before he departed to his hotel for the evening. While capturing the two shaking hands, the press was warned by the Emperor of Japan's team that shouting at President Trump while in the presence of the Emperor is considered assault, so no one shouted at President Trump this time. President Trump will meet with Japan's first female Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, tomorrow. Takaichi welcomed President Trump's trip on X, saying that Tokyo landmarks are now illustrated with special lighting to honor President Trump's visit. Today and tomorrow, the Tokyo Sky Tree, the Tokyo Tower, and the Tokyo Metropolitan Government Building will display lighting inspired by the Star-Spangled Banner. President Trump will then visit U.S. troops aboard the USS George Washington in order to give a speech. The USS George Washington was the United States' first operational ballistic missile submarine and Navy nuclear-powered aircraft carrier. Then, President Trump will dine with business leaders in the evening. On his way to Japan aboard Air Force One, President Trump spoke to reporters. When asked about terminating the trade talks with Canada, President Trump said that one of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada, and that he has no plans to meet with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney anytime soon.
And they're not going to rip us off anymore. Canada has been ripping us off for a long time.
Why?
One of the most difficult countries to deal with has been Canada. As much as I love Canada itself and the people of Canada, they've just had a lot of bad representatives. They did a fake ad yesterday. They were caught. The Ronald Reagan Foundation was the one that caught them, and it was totally the opposite of what they said. So I don't like that. That's dirty pool, and you can't do that. And let me just tell you, they shouldn't have done it. And they've apologized, and they said, we're going to take the ad down. Well, they did it, but they did it very late. They let it play for another 2 nights, and now they took that ad down. So I don't know when it's going to kick in. We'll see, but I don't really want to discuss it. Let's go.
President Trump announced on Saturday that he would hike tariffs on Canada by 10% in response to the Ontario government's decision to not immediately pull its anti-tariff TV ad broadcast from the United States. Canada waited until after the World Series started to wrap up the anti-tariff ad campaign. Kevin Hassett, the National Economic Council Director, is a top advisor to President Trump. He also explained yesterday why trade talks with Canada were canceled.
On Canada, you said the president was frustrated, but is this just a knee-jerk reaction?
I think the frustration has built up over time. I've been involved in some of these negotiations, and the Canadians have been very difficult to negotiate with. And you look at all the countries around the world that we've made deals with, and the fact that we're now negotiating with Mexico separately reveals that it's not just about one ad, that there's frustration that's built up.
How concerned is the administration that the Supreme Court will not ultimately side with your view on the tariff policy? The president has been truthing a lot about the upcoming case.
I think that we have a very high level of confidence that the Supreme Court will side with us. We think we're on very strong grounds. I've been fishing through the briefs myself just to see what the arguments are, and I think the case is very, very strong, and we're highly confident that they'll side with us. I even spoke in the Oval with the president about it last night, and I'd say the level of confidence is extremely high.
Mr. Hassett, just very quickly, what it has been so challenging about dealing with Canada in trade negotiations?
I guess the lack of flexibility, and also I would guess that leftover behaviors from like the Trudeau folks that can be very frustrating for people who are negotiating.
Carney told reporters in Malaysia that he had not spoken with President Trump since last Thursday. Carney said that he remains ready to meet with President Trump and that Ottawa and Washington had made considerable progress on a supplement to the trade relationship between the two. Carney said that the federal government had chosen not to run anti-tariff advertisements in the United States and that it was obvious for Canada not to do that. He said that Ontario Premier Doug Ford is the one who is responsible for the decision to run ads in the United States. During the gaggle with reporters on Air Force One, President Trump also ruled out the possibility of running in the 2028 election. He said that Republicans have great potential candidates.
You said that for 2028, they're very good people.
Well, we have great people. Well, I don't have to get into that, but we have one of them standing right here. We have JD, obviously. The vice president is great. I think Marco's great. I think, I'm not sure if anybody would run against us. I think if they ever formed a group, it would be unstoppable. I really do. I believe that. I would love to do it. I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. If you read it, am I not ruling it out? I mean, you'll have to tell me. All I can tell you is that we have a great group of people, which they don't.
One theory on how you might try to serve a third term is that you could run as the vice president.
Yeah, I'd be allowed to do that.
Is it the White House or the White House counsels or your legal position?
No, you'd be allowed to do that, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. I think it's too cute. Yeah, I would rule that out because it's too cute. I think the people wouldn't like that. It's too cute. It's not. It wouldn't be right.
President Trump was also asked about his current relationship with Elon Musk.
How is your relationship with Elon these days? And is there
I think it's good. I mean, you saw that during Charlie's beautiful tribute. Elon came up. It's good with Elon. I like Elon. I've always liked Elon. Elon's good.
Have you talked to him since the memorial?
On and off a little bit. Yeah, very little. Nothing much. Look, he's a nice guy. And he's a very capable guy. I've always liked him. He had a bad spell. He had a bad period. He had a bad moment. It was a stupid moment in his life. Very stupid. I'm sure he'd tell you that. But I like Elon, and I suspect I'll always like him.
President Trump also revealed that he had a perfect MRI during a recent routine semi-annual physical at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center.
The readout from Walter Reed mentioned advanced medical imaging. Did you get an MRI? Can you tell us what that was?
I did. I got an MRI. It was perfect. Yeah. I mean, I gave you the full results. We had an MRI, and in the machine, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was perfect, yeah.
Can you say one in particular? They were
You could ask the doctors. In fact, we have doctors traveling with us, but I think they gave you a very conclusive. Nobody has ever given you reports like I gave you. And if I didn't think it was going to be good, either I would let you know negatively, I wouldn't run, I'd do something, but the doctor said some of the best reports for the age, some of the best reports they've ever seen.
one theory.
Navy Captain Sean Barbarella, the physician to President Trump, said that President Trump remains in exceptional health, exhibiting strong cardiovascular, pulmonary, neurological, and physical performance. During his travel, President Trump also said that he's open to extending his Asia trip if Kim Jong-un wants to meet.
Mr. President, you talked about North Korea on your way here. Have you heard anything back from
I
Kim
haven't
Jong-un?
mentioned it, I haven't said anything, but I'd love to meet with him if he'd like to meet. I got along great with Kim Jong-un. I liked him, he liked me. If he wants to meet, I'll be in South Korea.
Would you extend your trip in order to try to meet
Say it.
him? Would you extend your trip in Asia in order to meet with him?
Well, I hadn't thought of it, but I think the answer would be, yeah, I would do that, sure.
And if, when you do,
It's our last stop,
when,
so it's pretty easy to do. Yeah, I would do that.
During President Trump's first stop in Malaysia, the United States reached trade deals with 4 Southeast Asian countries that address critical rare earth minerals and broader trade imbalances during a trade summit with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. President Trump signed agreements with Malaysia and Cambodia, as well as a framework agreement with Thailand that commits both to working on trade issues. Vietnam will also boost U.S. imports to narrow a $123 billion trade gap. The 4 Asian nations agreed to remove barriers to expand U.S. market access and to strengthen labor and environmental standards. Thailand will scrap tariffs on nearly all U.S. goods, and it will ease telecom ownership rules and buy 80 aircraft plus $5.4 billion in U.S. energy each year. The government of Malaysia honored President Trump with a traditional dance and performance, both when he arrived and when he left the country. Yesterday, U.S.-China teams concluded 2 days of trade negotiations in Kuala Lumpur, the capital of Malaysia. The U.S. stated that both parties had reached a framework for a trade agreement. This round of negotiations marks the 5th face-to-face meeting since May. The U.S. delegation included Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer, among others. This was entirely expected. The Chinese delegation featured Vice Premier He Lefeng and senior trade negotiator Li Qiangang, among others. But it's surprising that Li Qiangang was included. He's the one who was just dismissed a few days ago due to Bessent's complaints. Some observers have noted that in the eyes of Beijing, allowing Li Qiangang to recuse himself from negotiations would be tantamount to capitulating to the U.S. So this does not align with the CCP style of standing firm to the end. Since the Chinese Communist Party plans to reach a framework agreement with the United States this time, the CCP must project an image of toughness on the surface. Otherwise, it would be difficult to justify its actions to the Chinese public. Following the conclusion of negotiations, Bessent said that trade negotiations with China had been very productive. The framework agreement would prevent the United States from imposing 100% tariffs on Chinese goods, while China would delay implementing export controls on rare earths. Bissent said, "The president had given me maximum leverage when he threatened 100% tariffs if the Chinese imposed rare earth global export controls. So I think we have averted that so that the tariffs will be averted this week." Bissent also said, "We also agreed on substantial agricultural purchases for U.S. farmers. We agreed that the Chinese would begin to help us with the precursor chemicals for this terrible fentanyl epidemic that's ravaging our country. So I would say it was a very good meeting overall." Chinese Trade Representative Li Qiangang stated that both sides have reached a preliminary consensus and that the next step will involve initiating their respective internal approval processes. The agreement will be finalized during a meeting between President Trump and CCP leader Xi Jinping. These two leaders will meet in Seoul on Thursday. Li Qiangang said that the U.S. position has always been quite firm. "We have held very intensive consultations and agreed in constructive exchanges to explore solutions and arrangements addressing these concerns." President Trump expressed confidence that a trade deal would be reached at the two-leader summit. Bissent said, "I believe when the announcement of the deal with China is made public, that our soybean farmers will feel very good about what's going on both for this season and the coming seasons for several years." The Treasury Secretary also revealed that President Trump and Xi Jinping will reach a broad agreement. This agreement will extend the U.S.-China tariff truce, resolve differences over the sale of TikTok, and maintain the supply of rare earth magnets. The two leaders also plan to discuss a global peace initiative. President Trump has also publicly stated that he hopes to secure President Xi's assistance in resolving the Russia-Ukraine war. So the next question is, has Xi Jinping returned to the center of power? The fourth plenary session of the 20th CCP Central Committee concluded without the widely speculated outcome that Xi Jinping would relinquish his position as chairman of the Central Military Commission and as general secretary. Instead, Xi retained all three of his titles, especially over the past year or so. Despite numerous signs indicating his loss of military authority, Xi has retained his title as chairman of the Central Military Commission. So there must be reasons behind this. Lao Wang, who is a tycoon that used to work for the CCP's Development and Reform Commission and who used to do business in Beijing, now lives in Canada. He summarized the major takeaways from the fourth plenary session's communique. One issue is the unusual high number of absent members at this meeting. There should have been 205 full members and 167 alternate members of the Central Committee. However, the official attendance figures that were released show 168 full members and 147 alternate members were present. This indicates 37 full members and 20 alternate members were absent, totaling 57 individuals missing. This proportion is significantly higher than in previous sessions. The most likely explanation for these absences is that they are under investigation for misconduct. The vast majority of them are members of Xi Jinping's faction and are currently in a state of disappearance. At the end of the fourth plenary session, 11 alternate members of the Central Committee were promoted to full membership. Alternate members are usually ranked in order of precedence. However, the order of promotion was not followed, with 7 alternate members being skipped over. According to CCP convention, those who are skipped over are likely to have fallen from grace. Lao Wang analyzed the political background of the people who were skipped over and found that they were all people from Xi Jinping's faction. The second takeaway is that the CCP military has not filled the vacancies on the Central Military Commission. This is also surprising. Following the downfall of the former vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, Hu Weidong, former Defense Minister Li Shangfu, and former director of the Political Work Department of the Central Military Commission, Miao Hua, the Central Military Commission should have appointed 3 new members. Everyone was very concerned about which 3 individuals would be appointed to fill the vacancies, but no appointments were made. The only senior personnel appointment announced at this meeting was the confirmation of Jiang Shengmin's promotion to vice chairman of the Central Military Commission. Lao Wang teased that holding this meeting made little difference either way. The Chinese public couldn't care less about the 15th five-year plan. It's all empty talk anyway. What people really care about is personnel reassignment. They care about who gets promoted and who gets demoted. That's the real focus. He revealed that a person with high-level sources in the CCP had sent him a private letter saying that Xi Jinping's military power had been completely stripped. Jiang Shengmin, who has been promoted to vice chairman of the Central Military Commission, is a staunch and longtime subordinate of Jiang Yushua. Over the past year and a half, Jiang Shengmin has played a pivotal role in purging Xi Jinping's faction within the military. He was instrumental in handling numerous generals who were loyal to Xi Jinping, including He Weidong and Miao Hua. So Xi Jinping undoubtedly harbors hostility toward him. By convention, the vice chairman of the Central Military Commission should be nominated by Xi Jinping. So if Xi Jinping really still held sway, would he have nominated Jiang Shengmin? Clearly not. So Xi Jinping is only the nominal chairman of the Military Commission. Some observers also noted that this meeting contradicted Xi Jinping's statement at the 20th CPC National Congress, in which he said that he would never promise to abandon the use of force to unify with Taiwan. The communique from the 4th plenary session referred to promoting the long-term prosperity and stability of Hong Kong and Macau and advancing the peaceful development of cross-strait relations, suggesting that peaceful development will be the dominant theme in the years ahead, rather than Xi Jinping's assertion of using force to reunify with Taiwan. In a parallel development, Defense Minister Dong Jun was once again excluded from the Central Military Commission. All his predecessors had served as members of the commission. It was thought that he had a strong chance of joining this time. This setback is likely linked to Dong Jun's repeated public advocacy for military strikes against Taiwan. Although Xi Jinping has publicly stated in recent years that he will never promise to abandon the use of force to reunify with Taiwan, those holding real power within the military, such as Jiang Yushua, oppose launching a war. Consequently, despite having served as Minister of National Defense for almost 2 years, Dong Jun has not been appointed to the Central Military Commission. Thus, the outcome of the 4th plenary session revealed that Xi Jinping had lost command authority over 3 systems: the military, the armed police, and state security. However, Jiang Yushua wielded only military authority, and he could not control matters beyond the armed forces. Consequently, he had no choice but to call upon the veteran faction. Yet this faction was far from unified. On certain issues, its members held starkly opposing views and they could not reach consensus. The sole agreement that they managed to forge was that the CCP must preserve its so-called dignity. It should avoid escalating the internal conflict into open warfare. It should maintain the status quo, and it should ensure that Xi Jinping can relinquish power with dignity. But Lao Wang concluded this so-called decorum won't last long. The annual sessions of the CPPCC and the MPC next year, which will be followed by the 21st CPC National Congress, will give them another chance to clash. With just days left until the New York City mayoral election, Democratic mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani secured the endorsement of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries last Friday. Jeffries said that his support for Mamdani stems from Democratic unity and their shared agreement on affordability issues in New York City. In an interview with CBS News on Sunday, Jeffries revealed that Mamdani's commitment to retain the current New York City Police Commissioner, Jessica Tisch, was the deciding factor. He said that this is crucial for every community, including the Jewish community, for whom safety and security are also of paramount importance. However, the Jewish community does not believe Mamdani can protect them. Last week, hundreds of New York Jewish rabbis came forward to declare that Mamdani's mayoral candidacy poses a threat to New York's Jewish community, stating that they would prefer Cuomo as mayor. New York Governor Hochul and New York State Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie have thrown in for Mamdani, as has State Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins. Representative Jerry Nadler, Adriano Espelaya, and Yvette Clark, who joined Jeffries' second meeting with Mamdani, have also endorsed the state lawmaker after backing other candidates in the primary. California Governor Gavin Newsom confirmed on Sunday that he's considering running for president in 2028. In a pre-recorded interview that was aired on CBS News Sunday morning, he revealed that he would seriously consider the possibility of running for president after the 2026 midterm elections. Governor Newsom's term will end in January of 2027. Due to term limits, Newsom cannot run for governor again. He has recently visited several states that were holding early primaries and caucuses, including a trip to South Carolina in July. This was seen as a move to test voter reactions. Governor Newsom has consistently been a vocal critic of President Trump. Over the past week, the California governor threatened to file a lawsuit if the Trump administration deployed the National Guard to San Francisco. However, President Trump suspended this decision to deport the National Guard after speaking with some business associates and San Francisco Mayor Daniel Lurie. Lurie very politely requested the president to give him the opportunity to tackle crime without federal intervention. If Newsom decides to run for president in 2028, though, some of his past controversies may resurface, such as his COVID-19 orders and policies during the pandemic. He himself did not even follow his own policies. In November of 2020, while statewide lockdown orders remained in effect, he violated his own pandemic regulations by dining at a high-end French restaurant with unmasked lobbyists, all while many businesses were still forced to close. La Libertad Avanza, the ruling party of Argentine President Javier Milei, won a landslide victory in Sunday's midterm congressional elections. This marks an important milestone in Milei's first political test since his election as president in 2023. The party received 40.8% of the national vote in the House of Representatives election, which was far ahead of the left-wing opposition Peronist camp's 31.7%, according to a preliminary tally by election authorities. In the Senate election, where 1/3 of the seats were up for re-election, La Libertad Avanza also won in 6 out of 8 provinces. Since taking office, Milei has implemented a series of chainsaw economics and shock therapy reforms centered on libertarian principles, driving cuts to government spending, deregulation, and downsizing of the public sector. President Trump commends Milei's reforms. Washington was considering providing additional economic and financing support to help stabilize the financial system in Argentina, contingent upon Milei's ruling party winning the midterm elections. During a bilateral meeting with Milei at the White House on October 14th, President Trump said, because if a socialist wins, you'd feel a lot differently about making an investment. Although La Libertad Avanza performed impressively, it remains the second largest party in Congress, still falling short of a majority. The Peronist alliance continues to hold more seats, meaning even under the most favorable circumstances, Milei would struggle to gain sole control of Congress. However, securing over 1/3 of the seats will help prevent the opposition from overturning presidential vetoes or blocking reform bills. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because Everybody deserves to know the truth.